Alright, we are live once again and getting into it. And let's start by saying I really appreciate when you guys comment and send through your thoughts on these live streams. Tell me what you want, what your experiences are, all that kind of stuff. Helps me get to know you better so I can make sure that this group is super valuable. Super. I hate using the word super, but I've caught on to it because like heaps of people in my industry use that word, that superlative. Ugh, gotta stop doing that. Alright, let's just make sure it's all working. Looks like we've got a couple of people watching. Now apparently this will give you a wave, Nick. Let's see if that works. There you go, I just waved at you. Doesn't that make you feel loved? Alright, yep, it looks like it's working. So thanks for joining live, and for those of you who watch the recording, thank you also. And I'm going to try and keep these a bit shorter. They've been going a bit long, I think, half an hour. So I'm going to try and get it down to more like the 10-minute range, or maybe 15. Because I mean, who the fuck's got the time to watch this stuff, right? So yeah, send your questions through if you want them answered in these live streams. You can email me dan@brojo.org. You can message me on Facebook. I think I'm friends with most of you. You can just comment below, and I'll cater the content to your desires. I've got a program coming up that I'll talk about at the end, so you can stick around for that, or you can leave when I start talking about it. It's up to you. But this, these live streams kind of double as my marketing for my programs as well. So there's always going to be a bit of that. So today we're going to talk about the old-fashioned whiskey dick and the other symptoms of performance anxiety. So we're going to talk about feeling anxious in the bedroom or wherever it is that you get laid, and why that happens, and why that's particularly prevalent, though it's one of the world's best kept secrets kind of thing, with long-term relationships and with nice guys. So I'll start off by saying that it happens way more than people admit. Okay, it affects a lot of guys. It affects them in different ways, but it affects a lot of guys, and it's affected me in the past, not so much anymore, but in the past it was kind of actually one of the central focuses of my life because it was such a big deal. It haunted me for years. And one of the main reasons was because I thought I was the only one. It seemed like none of my mates had this problem. It just turns out nobody was talking about it. So it started for me with my first ever girlfriend, actually, who was also the girl I lost my virginity to. Well, she wasn't my first girlfriend, really, but my first long-term relationship. And, we're about 15, 16, I can't remember exactly what age we crossed the line together, but, when we started moving in that direction, my dick just stopped working. And it was the most bizarre thing. I'm a typical teenage guy. I could hardly keep the thing down until I actually needed it. I totally didn't see this coming. Never talked about or heard about this problem before. And it just started happening. And it delayed me losing my virginity for quite some time. And also started what would end up being a lifelong reluctance to use condoms, because generally that's about when it would happen, which was very dangerous reluctance to have. I tell you that, I got very lucky, dodged some bullets with that fucking problem. Anyway, so for months I couldn't function properly physically. If I got anxious, it seems like all the anxiety just went downstairs and just froze up. I later found out that a flaccid penis is actually a tense penis. An erection is a relaxed penis. Now, it seems the opposite, obviously, physiologically, but that's exactly true. I mean, when you relax, all the blood flows, and that's what expands the penis. So, when you're tense and anxious and worried and nervous, everything down there shuts down. The blood flow can't get there, and that's why that happens. That's why you can't get it up. Now, other people have different symptoms to this. Some guys come prematurely. Other guys can't come at all. And then there's kind of symptoms that expand beyond this, becoming obsessed with porn, becoming reluctant to have sex, avoidant of it, feeling like it's a very serious chore that you have to do. There's lots of different versions of what we'd call performance anxiety, this idea that I have to perform well. And that was always at the heart of it, this kind of fear for me, that whatever happens here, she's going to talk to her friends about it, and her friends are my friends, and everyone's going to know. So I was very scared of what might happen, and ironically that made the worst thing happen. What ended up happening after, almost straight away, but became a kind of lifelong pattern that took me many years to break, was I became quite passive sexually. I was in no hurry to actually get to that stage of sexual escalation. In my mind, I told myself, oh my God, I want a girlfriend, I want to get laid. I told myself this for many, many years. But my behaviour is actually quite reluctant specifically because of this issue. Because I thought, fuck, it's going to happen again. So you end up with this problem where your concern about performance anxiety now becomes the cause of performance anxiety. Whatever your symptom is, whether you can't get it up or you can't ejaculate or you come too soon or whatever, your fear of that happening ends up being the reason it happens. And so whatever your original performance anxiety was about, like maybe it's just a big deal to have sex for the first time, or maybe you really hope that this girl likes you, whatever your initial cause gets replaced with a kind of loop. Now you're anxious about anxiety itself. I call it anxiety squared. It multiplies itself. And it's hell, because how do you stop being anxious about anxiety when you know it's going to happen? Right? So what happens with nice guys in relationships is they generally become passive sexually, and the woman has to do all the leading. She has to initiate. The guy sees sex as a hassle or a high pressure chore. So she has to do all the work, and the guy starts engaging in avoidance strategies, busyness, porn use, maybe even cheating, which sounds bizarre, but generally guys who have performance anxieties only have it with girls that they care about, that they want it to go well with. And generally the problem goes away, or at least it did for me, with girls that I didn't really care about emotionally. So, why does this happen? Why does this really happen? Well, I think it's a social cultural thing. It's definitely not a physical thing. Like if you have, say you can't get it up, but you have erections when you're by yourself or in your sleep, then it's not a physical problem. It's a mental one. There's a lot of different things, but one of them is being raised to believe. And by raised, it sounds like your parents, but it's more like your peers and your media, that being a real man is directly tied to your ability to perform in the bedroom. And so there's this high pressure to be really impressive, right? That this idea that a man needs to deliver lots of pleasure and orgasms and be this kind of porn star in the bedroom, and if not, he's not a man. And particularly if he can't get it up, he's not a man. Or if whatever, he can't last very long. And you get this impression that lots of guys out there are these Casanovas, just crushing it in the bedroom. Which means you're just not hearing honest stories from women, because most guys are basically poor to average in the bedroom, and women just kind of tolerate it because that's the majority. But guys grow up with this impression that, even from the day you lose your virginity, you're supposed to be this master of physical pleasure. And, for nice guys, this is where it really comes to a head, because we're already in the mindset like, I have to make people happy, I have to make people feel good, I have to improve their lives, I have to be valuable, I have to put effort in to be valuable because I'm not good enough just by myself. Combined with an obsession with sex, and sex being the thing that we do with the woman that we're attracted to, that's like peak nice guy hell, really. That's where the most pressure is on us. For a lot of us, every nice guy is different, but this is where it really comes to a head for a lot of nice guys. It's like, I have to do well in the bedroom more than anything else. What I discovered for myself, the reason for this was because I really struggled to believe that anyone could love me, or just like me, or be attracted to me. But I came to the conclusion that sex was definite proof. That like a woman might tell me she likes me, I've had that happen, it turns out she just liked me as a friend, so that wasn't true, sort of thing. And she might kiss me, and I've had that happen, and then next time I see her at a party, she's like, why are you talking to me? It's like it wasn't even real. But I came to the conclusion, if a girl opens her legs for me, then she really does like me. She wouldn't do that for, fake reasons, which is ridiculous. Of course she can. But I came to the conclusion, like, not only do I have to be very good in bed, but if I am, they'll actually love me. That's how I keep a girl. I knew that this was the case because if a girl that I was seeing, long term or even short term, said that she didn't feel like having sex tonight, I would assume the relationship was over. And often it was. There was a warning sign that it was about to end. I just didn't realise that sex wasn't actually the problem. So we start to see sex as validation of love and approval, and the idea that if I have performance anxiety, it will kill the relationship. And so that just creates more anxiety, doesn't it? The pressure. So a lot of guys like to talk about sex as if it's something that they enjoy, don't they? There's this kind of stigma or pressure on guys to be like sex mad, to be really into it and just want to fuck all the time, especially around other guys. But the truth is, many guys see real sex, not porn or prostitutes, but sex with an actual emotional human being, as being a very serious, stressful process. Very few guys find that like carefree, fun process, though they like to pretend that they do. We also get sexual shame issues on the woman's side, which can exacerbate this. So if you've got a woman who's not open about sex, I used to not have this problem come up when I was with a girl who was really like sexually shameless. If she just didn't give a shit, if she loved sex and she loved penis and everything, I'd be like much more relaxed, because she almost didn't care what happened as long as something happened. I could use my hands or my mouth or anything, she wouldn't mind. But if you're with a girl who like has to keep the lights off because she's ashamed of her body, or she cries afterwards because she has some trauma, or she's really reluctant, or she says don't touch me there because it hurts, or whatever, you get this what I call pussy phobia, which is you're scared that sex will hurt her in some way. You're scared that it'll hurt her physically. Many girls have various physical issues that come up in sex, issues with their vagina or their nipples or anything where they get pain. That's very common, much more common, again, one of the world's best kept secrets. Or we get much more scared that the sex will actually cause some sort of emotional pain, especially if combined with performance anxiety. Like performance anxiety will disappoint her. So it will hurt her emotionally and not perform physically. I mean, that's our nightmare as a nice guy. That's like the ultimate failure to please. So we develop pussy phobia, which is, I'm taking a high risk getting into the bedroom with this girl. Like, there's a lot of pain that could happen here. And that never happens when I watch porn, so you get this kind of pull. And we are obsessed with sex as well. Like I said, for reasons before, if you think sex is validation, if you've been raised in a culture with guys that talk about sex like it's the only thing that matters and it's a big deal, and your masculinity rides on it, and if you get a lot of sex you're an awesome guy, and if you don't you're a loser, and all that kind of stuff, we lose sight of the fact that, let's call it what it is, sex is basically pleasurable push-ups. It's not that big a deal. You can have great connection without sex. You can have a wonderful life without sex. I know, because I went out without sex for a very long time, and you can still live. But we become obsessed with it like it's the most important thing in the world. Like, getting your rocks off is this huge big deal. More important than our children, our friends, our career, our health. It becomes the top priority, and when you think about it like that, you've got to ask why. Why is this thing such a big deal? Really, can I not think of a better, more meaningful thing to do with my life than put one of my organs inside the body of somebody else? Right? And then, of course, we see sex as a process. We can't just be sexual, which has no rules attached to it. It's just fun and playful. Can go for as long or as short as we feel like it, and doesn't require any specific movements or activities. But most guys see sex as a process. Like, if I start this thing, I have to finish it, right? Like, they get to a point where they won't kiss their wives passionately, they won't grab their ass, they won't give them a compliment that about their body because they're worried that starts the process. Now they're going to have to follow through. They're going to have to do all the foreplay and then all the sex and then give an orgasm, and it all has to go very, very well. And if it doesn't, I'm a fucking loser, right? So you get that kind of thinking, which makes you go, God, why would I start? It's what I call the Everest effect. Like, it's very hard to start walking up a mountain when it looks like Everest, right? You're like, Jesus Christ, I'm never going to get to the top of this thing. So when you've got performance anxiety already, the idea of starting the sexual process is very intimidating. Like, geez, we're going to get back to that awkward place where I can't get it up and I have to pretend that I'm too tired or whatever, and, you know, it becomes very intimidating. And I'd get to the point, you know, back in the day when this affected me, where like a girl would smile at me and I'd look away because I don't want to start anything, you know. I thought I did, but physically I'd actually be quite repulsed by the possibility of sex because it just felt like this huge overwhelming process that was not going to go well. There was no point in starting. And basically it ends up that sex becomes a confrontation. Being sexual is confrontational because the confrontation is an expression of truth that you believe is going to be met with resistance. That's essentially the definition of a confrontation. So if you think initiating sex is something that's going to create an uncomfortable situation, you start to see sex as a confrontation, as a fight, rather than an act of love. It's not just an extension of affection and love, it's more like a battle that you have to survive. That's what performance anxiety is like for a guy. It's hell. It's fucking hell. I've had clients, one-to-one clients, where all we did was work on performance anxiety. There's nothing else in their life that actually bothered them that much. They were doing all right. But this thing was just filled up their mind. They thought about it all the time. They worried about it all the time, which is, of course, what caused it. And that was most of our work. Now, the key, really, is pretty short and sweet. But the key is that the anxiety causes the anxiety. You have to find a way to make sex fun. And the best way to do that is to ask yourself, how do I make this a completely pressure-free situation? How do I make it where there's no obligation and there's no concept of performance? I do not need to impress or deliver a value in any way. How do I just have fun doing it? And for me, the main way of doing this was to move from having sex to being sexual, which are two completely different things. Well, not completely different, but having sex is the process from start to finish that requires all these deliverables, right? All this value you have to provide, all these criteria you have to meet and to impress, and all these, you know, failure points, these possibilities where you could be deemed to be a failure. That's what a lot of people think of when they think of sex. But being sexual is just expressing truthful interest. It could be you come up behind your wife and you just kiss her on the neck because she's looking particularly lovely today, and then you walk away. It's not an obligation to continue. You don't have to go anywhere with that. It must not, you know, it doesn't have to require penetration or any rules that people attach to sex. You just do what you feel like doing. And you can stop whenever you feel like stopping. You could escalate all the way up to the point where you are going to penetrate, you know. It's quite a graphic session, this one. And then decide that'll do. You know, you can say, like, you not getting it up can be like, oh, I guess we're done. Or, you know, I guess we'll try something else. Let's do an oil massage. You can just shift and adapt to whatever limitations or barriers come up without having to get through them. Right? If you're having fun, you don't go solving problems. You just move on to something that's still fun. Right? So if you can do this thing where there's no rules, you don't have to provide anything. And you can shift and move around this problem. And you combine that with being honest about it. You go, shit, I'm fucking too nervous. I can't get it up. I must put myself under pressure. Let's try something else. If you can make that just a normal conversation. It's kind of like, I can't do a workout today because I sprained my ankle. So we'll probably just, we'll watch MasterChef instead. If you can just learn that, like, hey, this thing got in the way, so we'll just work around it. Then the thing stops being such a big deal. If you know that you can be sexual without needing your dick to work, or without needing to last a long time, or whatever it is that you're worried about, then all the pressure comes off. You're like, hey, I can still do this. The breakthrough for me actually was, what's that program? Californication, David Duchovny. There was a highly sexual couple, but the guy was in a wheelchair. These characters. And what he says, like, if you don't have it in the hips, you got to have it in the lips. And it was this idea, like, this guy who's in a wheelchair and doesn't function from the waist down still has a very active sex life. And it made me think, like, oh yeah, like, if you don't function down there, or function the way you want, do something else. Why does that have to be the only thing that counts as sex, you know? I mean, lesbians have sex. What are they doing, right? So you start to expand your definition of what sex can be and start to remove what it must be. And then you're free. And then you'll find that your dick works better. And then that becomes part of the options, but it doesn't have to happen. If it comes back, well, I guess it's back again. I'll try something else. Anyway, that was quite a graphic session, wasn't it? But look, I know it's one of the main issues. Nobody wants to talk about it. I won't be surprised if nobody puts comments like me too down in this particular live stream because everyone's so embarrassed and ashamed of it. But the problem is, you know, your shame of it is what makes it happen. You know, I've worked with a lot of guys and I've had a lot of guys be honest with me. Trust me, this happens a lot. And the guys who don't admit it to me, their partners do. Okay? Very few guys perform like porn stars in the bedroom. Very few. Or tantric love yoga masters, right? That's like 1% of guys. Most guys give a poor to average performance in the bedroom. And they don't actually know what that means. They think it means they don't last long enough, or their dick's not hard enough, or whatever it is. But what it actually means is they're all serious and stressed out, and it's not enjoyable emotionally for the woman. Right? A guy who can laugh off not being able to get it up and do something else instead, and not give up. Just be like, alright, guess it's all about you tonight. Let's do this. A girl will call that a good performance. Alright. But a guy who can get it up, but he's all super serious and just pounding away like, come on, do you love me now? Can I tell my friends that I did well? Yeah, she's not going to call that a good performance. Well, who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Ask the girls in your life, see what they say. Alright, so send me through your questions, comment below. Hopefully you find that somewhat helpful or at least liberating. I've got more content on this, so if you ever want sort of more detailed content on this, let me know. You can let me know privately if you want, and I'll send some stuff through. I will talk a little bit more about the program. So it's still in development. I've had a lot of you guys answering questions and giving me feedback to help develop the program. Thank you so much to those of you who are doing that. Getting some great honesty and some personal stuff coming through, which is helping me make sure that this program will deliver results, you know. And I won't go into too much detail, but what I'm clearly getting through is what I'm going to name the program, respect. We want the guy to be able to respect himself, which will in turn cause others to respect him, particularly his partner or the woman he's interested in dating. And it comes from being emotionally shameless, being very powerful and assertive with your confrontations and your communication, and being able to react to the way they respond to you in a healthy way. You know, not taking it personally, understanding what they're really saying. So I've been developing that so that guys can have very powerful communication in their relationships and in a way that they respect themselves, and everything will just kind of extrapolate on from that. It's, put it this way, it's kind of like first you make yourself confident and then everyone will be confident in you, right? That's what we'll be going for in this program, so that even if it doesn't work out with your current partner, like if the damage is already done, your future will be bright when it comes to love. Okay, so that's about it. Let me know if you're interested in the program either privately or you can comment below. And if you're interested in helping me develop the program, if you're not already in conversation with me, answering some questions and stuff, please get in touch and we'll talk about it. And I'll see you guys all next time. Cheers.